I'm really pleased to introduce Valeria Pryhozhyna, who is, hello, Valeria. Nice to see you. Thank you. Thank you for joining our symposium today. And you're a psychotherapist and head of the personality-centered therapy section of the Ukrainian Union of Psychotherapists. And you're going to talk to us about women's path through war, legacy of strength, or challenges of modernity. Thank you so much.
Thank you. So, first of all, I would like to start from the fact that my name is Valeria Pryhozhyna, and currently I am living in Ukraine, in Dnipro. It's a huge city. It has more than 1 million in population, and right now it is one of the foreposts, the first after the front line, and currently in this city, the amount of population has changed because part of people left to the west of Ukraine or abroad. But nevertheless, we have lots of IDPs from Kharkiv, Donetsk region in our city, from Sumy region. And I would say that right now we are some kind of hub, and lots of people come to us. I can say, stabilize them a little bit and send them further. Concerning this women's past, women's strength, women inheritance, that it seems to me, in my opinion, Ukraine has, and I would like to share my reflections, my thoughts concerning how it's going on with me in my family, in my experience, and maybe for someone it might be also relevant. So first and foremost, I would like to mention that Ukraine historically, it's like that it is a country that where women constantly sent their men to war. And it is history with this is history that the war is coming to our country. It's very natural for us. Here we have classic picture, Ukrainian picture. We have a girl here, young girl, a young woman who's sending her beloved one to the war. And we have different songs, folk songs, different works available in our cultures. They are constantly they are, this part of our culture. I would like to share the story that once Elizabeth Kramer came to us. She is a client-centered therapist, and after our some kind of workshop, we went to a restaurant as we usually do. We drank a little bit, we ate a little bit, and we started singing songs. It's also Ukrainian tradition, to sing songs together, and we are a very singing nation. And we were singing one song, another song, and we already, it was too very heartful. And at some moment, Elizabeth has mentioned, guys, why your songs are so sad? Why why I constantly want to cry? Why it's constantly about some tragic events and about some kind of very miserable conditions, And actually, when we started thinking about it a little bit and look at it from a different point of view, we faced this fact that really our culture, our heritage left us with this precisely. We have lots of sadness, we have lots of parables, we have lots of this idea that someone is leaving, someone is staying, and I would like to say that we have lots of this heritage that we received. It's actually full of this idea of horrible separation, saying goodbye, and staying without each other. And when I was preparing to this conference, I actually decided to have certain mm, kind of research, and then right now I would like to present you this chronology in Ukrainian history from uh, its founding day to the present day, that these are the wars that Ukraine was taking part, being the state that started this war and taking part in this war, or was part of some other states. And here, as you can see, this red line is when Ukraine was at war, and those uh, white parts is that when Ukraine was not taking part in any hostilities. And as you can see, this story about war on our territories and in our state is pretty powerful. So that's why it is understandable that we have been facing with the fact that our collective conscious is sending us basically this experience that we got during this very long history of our state. That's why we have so many songs, so many ideas that are available in our collective subconscious. One of my colleagues has mentioned that right now she as never feels that she is at the edge of this collective trauma, of experiencing this collective trauma that was happening with our country and with our people within many years. What I would like to say, what is, if we get back to the role of a woman during the war, so I can say that traditionally women's role in war is the role of trophy or victim. And in older wars, like some invaders came and were taking away women and were taking to their own country, and they were raping them, selling them as slaves. And traditionally, as we even can see here in this picture, it is a classic picture by Taras Shevchenko that is an illustration of his poem. What do we see here? It is the background. The military man who raped a girl, she got pregnant, she stayed in the village, and somehow she had to deal with the situation. So actually, this story is that the war is bringing some kind of problems that a woman has to deal with somehow on her own, and to deal with them on her own. This is to cope with them on her own. It is very traditional, it's very usual. And that's how I think we can think about how women within this very long period of time are already used to the fact that they have to do something with it, and they will be facing with these ideas later, and that this role of victim, they will have to do something with it. Of course, when the war comes, a woman has to change her regular female roles in the context of reality that we start facing with. And when men go to war, women are forced to take on roles of males. Yes, already a woman has to be responsible for some kind of welfare of the family, for feeding the children, for earning money, and it is more traditional male roles, but they become inseparable part of women reality. And on the one hand, it's really additional pressure that women take on themselves, but on the other hand, it is additional experience, and pretty often these women cope with it pretty successfully, because when there is nowhere, there is because when there is nothing to do, we have to deal with it, to cope with it, and we have to somehow respond to those challenges we have faced with. And this experience of another role, of course, is changing every person that is taking on this role. And when our males come back from the war, we understand that they have changed because the war has changed them significantly. But women have also have changed a lot because this experience is extremely changing and it leaves you with this important feeling that a person, a woman, can deal with it and can cope with even such strong, such complicated, such irregular challenges. And as we have already seen in Ukraine, this experience of war is pretty extensive, and thus historically it's like this that women are already used on taking on such roles on themselves, and we have several images, classic images. The one is this young woman who is very gentle, very fragile, and cannot deal or cope with such challenges of reality. And another picture, it is, this already mature woman who can stand and make every man go away from her house if she does not want him, or deal with some, you know, deal with some routine stuff, financial matters, cattle, livestock, garden, and to be pretty successful in all of it. So we have two images. One image is this woman victim, and another image it is that woman who is capable of everything. Concerning studies that are available concerning the role of women in war, when I started looking for this information, what we can rely on, what have already been researched, and what challenges women should deal with during the hostilities. So first and foremost, as far as I understand, we do not have that many studies, but the huge one was conducted and published by the international humanitarian organization CARE, and I would like to share the results of the study a little bit. So we need to understand that this plays important role in support and encouraging communities in such countries as Ukraine, Colombia, Syria, Gaza. It's a leading role in supporting and uplifting their communities. But what we mean that a woman from passive victim role starts moving to more active, more involved, more engaged role in her life and the life of her communities. How do we see when men go to the war and they leave women? Women provide food and shelter for those who flee their homes. They become breadwinners for their families, and they advocate for change that take place in the family later. So 79% of women find ways to make communities safer. And we all the time we have been facing with this when we meet with women that right now are in Ukraine. 71% provide health services, and 46% of women think about how to diversify their income to take care of their families. Because this pressure is now, this load is now on shoulders of women. What are additional conclusions? Now, when women end up in such martial law, what is her biggest concerns? 58% of women, who care organizations spoke with in conflict zones, said they needed assistance with livelihoods. So 41% of women cited food shortages as one of the biggest impacts of the conflict. So when we meet our women that, for instance, head back to safer territories from conflict zones, hostility zones. As I have already mentioned, Dnipro is this hub and center that meets such people first. Then at those points where we gather those people, that's the first thing that we have to provide them with. It is access to food, access to hot water, and we lost the speaker again. The opportunity to wash, the opportunity to somehow at least care, to take care of their basic needs. And as you can see, more than 80% of women just cannot meet their needs. And additionally, what else are women facing with? It's sexual violence, and unfortunately, right now we can say that it is not only women faced with sexual violence in our area. I just yesterday read a research concerning amount of people that came for help and that managed to apply for some kind of reimbursement for sexual violence. And now then more than 50% are men who also suffered from sexual violence during the war. And also, what else women are facing with? It is a breakdown of health systems, and women usually stay together with children, and that's why we see that there is a real threat in that part of medical care and not providing medical care to women and children who stay at the conflict zone. And unfortunately, as we can see, lately, missiles pretty often hit hospitals. It's just norm now. Because for those countries that have been mentioned earlier, and for Ukraine, because I pretty often communicate with those women IDPs that get out of the area of armed forces, of hostilities, I mean, and they come to our hubs and they say that they have food shortages. It is a threat for life, sexual violence. We talked about this already. And you see another very important information that in hostility zones, 1 in 2 women dies during pregnancy or childbirth, specifically because of those risks of hostilities for life and health of women in this particular period. Pretty often, unfortunately, when I was preparing this study, I have personally, I have almost become feminist because I realized that authorities usually exclude, governance structure usually exclude women from their, managing roles, and from that history that women somehow can be at the place, at the level of state influence on what is going on with their lives. But I also would like to mention that at level of communities, women are very effective, and pretty often, because of them, communities are dealing with those challenges that they have to face with. Yes. As
So I think, unfortunately, we seem to have lost Valeria again. Her internet is difficult, as is true, of course, for many of us, but also particularly in Ukraine. Oh, maybe she's coming back. We'll get. Oh, yeah. Okay.
And the main idea, basically, of overcoming this regular role of a woman as a victim of war, I see in moving from victim to authorship in her own life, and to to define that part where we can really become authors, and to feel this competence, this strength that appear when we become authors of our life. At this particular moment, right now, in this war, Ukrainian women showed themselves from an amazing side as free beings. And right now, currently, the Ukrainian armed forces number about 50,000 women that decided to become, as well as men, representatives of the army, and to protect, to defend their motherland, and to make their contribution and influence where they can influence. To stop being victims and to become more active participants, in particular of hostilities. Right now, this is about 12% of our army. These are women, and this is approximately the average level for a NATO country, because in those countries also around the same percentage of women is in the army, and that's how we already aligned ourselves with some European standards. But I believe that it might still change, because women will become more active participants of this story. I would like to tell you about two women, my colleagues, that they are client-centered therapists. Is Victoria Bilouz and Lilia Babicheva. These are women who had great education. At the first picture, it is Victoria that was with us in Poland in the European Congress on Client-Centered Therapy, and she is a candidate of, she has a PhD, but she decided from the very first day of the war to protect, to defend our country, and right now she is a psychologist, very successful psychologist. She already has certain career in the army, but it is our client-centered therapist that we have always known, and we have cooperated with her a lot. The second woman is Lilia Babicheva. You can see on the first picture she's with a toy, because she she was learning how to work with children, client-centered therapy, and working with teenagers and children. And you see what she was preparing for, and what she started doing. She joined the army, and right now she's a psychologist in the brigade. She's working with militaries, and I'm very proud of them. I'm very proud of these women who took their fates into their arms and started implementing, realizing themselves in such an unusual male sphere, but they are extremely successful. And I think that if we increase that percentage of women in such structures, then we will be able to be even more effective. Where can a woman implement herself, realize herself, and how in these conditions can a woman realize herself, how she can become an author, how she can feel this authorship? Even now, there are really great programs in NGOs that help women realize their potential during the war. These are open doors for women who are IDPs, women from deoccupied territories. These are women from families of veterans, the women veterans. All those who strive to get some changes now have the opportunities to train for a new profession. There are small grants for starting their own business. There are programs to combat gender-based violence, to 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 exit from complicated relations and start new ones. There are special leadership programs for women that support some innovative ideas that our women bring into this world. And that's how I would like to move smoothly to the story, my personal story, and to tell about organization. I am realizing myself as a woman. It is crisis psychological assistance in Dnipro and Dnipropetrovsk region. And this is the organization that since actually started being active in 2013. Maybe you have heard about crisis psychological service of Maidan, and our organization actually has its roots in that period. And we have experience of working in this sphere from 2013, but we were not official. We were kind of branch in Dnipro of the SKF organization, Maidan Psychological Crisis Service. But in 2022, when full-scale invasion started, already next day, it was the 24th was the beginning, so on 25th, we have already organized lecture on the first psychological aid for psychologists of Dnipro and Dnipropetrovsk region. In summer 2022, we united and we created organization. As you can see here, the picture on the top, it's 2014. We still have a little bit more men there. The second picture, that's 2022. It is fully volunteer organization that does not have any kind of income, but within all this period of time, they keep on working effectively. At the beginning, we had around 120 volunteers. These were mostly women. We have a male component. We are very happy that it exists, but still main people are women. Here, unfortunately, there are a little bit less of us. As of now, we have around 80 volunteers, but this is completely volunteering work that is being implemented not only in Dnipro, but in all Dnipropetrovsk region, which is now already, we can say, the edge of our region is a front line. And our region finishes and the war starts. What are directions of work of our service? I would like to also get you familiar with those people who are our coordinators. As you can see here, we have more women, but we also have one man. We are very happy that he's with us. He has been with us for many years already. First direction is work with internally displaced people. It is our Olga Konyushenko responsible for that direction. At the beginning of the war, we had in Dnipro 8 shelters that organization was taking care of, and every day the team was on duty in those shelters, providing first psychological support for those who have arrived to these shelters. The beginning of the war, that's what, that people absolutely without any clothes, only with the back of documents with them, and sometimes even without the documents that come absolutely disoriented with confused children, with unclear plans for future, and they were coming to our specialists who could at least somehow get them back to here and now, to give them the opportunity to breathe a little bit and to give to understand what to do so that adults can also understand what and make important decisions concerning their further fate, we can even say. And I also might say that the work with military, it is the head of our organization, Tatiana Yermolaeva. She has now already thousands of veterans came through her direction, work with military personnel, because they got very experienced help. Work with families of military personnel, that's also important work, because those women who are left home without men, they have what we were talking about, they have to take on new roles, they have to adapt to new challenges, and pretty often this work that Ludmila is responsible for this direction, and we managed to create groups and individual support for those who need it. Work with the wounded in hospitals. It is that man, Alexander Fedorets, who unfortunately at the beginning of the war, psychologists were not. Fortunately, Valeria is breaking up. I'm really sorry for such internet problems, because I really wanted to tell you about this idea that when we as women stop being in the position of victims, then we are capable of, I do not want to say some kind of, deeds, but some actions that might save lives, that might give us the opportunity to feel our own strengths, and that give us the opportunity to be alive and to keep on living despite those events we ended up in.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Valeria. Thank you. You have spoken to us so powerfully. You have done so much background preparation and research, and we really appreciate everything that you have spoken about, and particularly talking about women's journey from victim to authorship. This is really important, to not be victims in this time of war, but to be authors of their own lives, for women to be authors of their own lives. And that's what's happening in the group that you are working in now. So we wish you well. We wish you all well in your work. And we thank you for your presentation to us today. Thank you so very much.